The Ukrainian conflict has been an ongoing crisis for nearly a decade, with no end in sight. It has resulted in thousands of deaths and displaced millions of people, causing political and economic instability in the region. In this 20,000-word article, we will delve deep into the history, causes, and consequences of the Ukrainian conflict. We will explore the role of external actors, including Russia, in the conflict and the impact of economic sanctions and military intervention. We will also analyze the efforts made to resolve the conflict through diplomatic negotiations and the challenges that have hindered their success. The Ukrainian conflict is a complex and ongoing crisis that has been ongoing since 2014. It is a conflict between the Ukrainian government and Russian-backed separatists in the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. The conflict has resulted in the deaths of thousands of people, and has caused significant political and economic instability in the region. In this article, we will provide an in-depth analysis of the origins of the conflict, the key players involved, and the possible solutions to end the conflict. The origins of the conflict can be traced back to the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Ukraine gained independence and became a sovereign state, but it inherited a weak economy and a deeply divided society. The country had two main linguistic and cultural groups, Ukrainian-speaking Westerners and Russian-speaking Easterners. In 2010, Viktor Yanukovych, a pro-Russian politician, was elected as Ukraine's president. Yanukovych's policies were heavily criticized by pro-Western Ukrainians who accused him of corruption and authoritarianism. Yanukovych's decision to abandon an association agreement with the European Union in favor of closer ties with Russia in 2013 triggered widespread protests in Ukraine, known as the Euromaidan protests. The protests culminated in Yanukovych's removal from office in February 2014, and a pro-Western government was established in Ukraine. The new government's policies were heavily criticized by pro-Russian Ukrainians, who felt that their interests were not being represented by the government. In response to the new government's policies, pro-Russian separatists in the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk declared independence from Ukraine in April 2014. The separatists were supported by Russia, which provided them with military equipment and personnel. The Ukrainian government responded by launching a military operation to regain control of the separatist-controlled areas. The conflict quickly escalated into a full-blown war, with both sides accusing each other of war crimes and atrocities. The war has been characterized by intense fighting, shelling, and artillery fire, resulting in the deaths of thousands of people and the displacement of millions. The conflict in Ukraine involves several key players, including the Ukrainian government, Russian-backed separatists, Russia, and the international community. The Ukrainian government is the primary player in the conflict. It is responsible for launching military operations against the separatists and trying to regain control of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The government is also responsible for negotiating with the separatists and seeking a peaceful solution to the conflict. The separatists are a group of pro-Russian militants who have declared independence from Ukraine and seized control of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. They are heavily armed and supported by Russia, which provides them with military equipment, personnel, and financial assistance. Russia is the most significant external player in the conflict. The country is accused of providing military support to the separatists, violating Ukraine's sovereignty, and annexing Crimea in 2014. Russia denies these accusations and claims that it is not involved in the conflict. The international community has played a crucial role in the conflict by providing diplomatic, economic, and military support to Ukraine. The European Union and the United States have imposed economic sanctions on Russia, which has had a significant impact on Russia's economy. NATO has also provided military support to Ukraine, including training and equipment. The Ukrainian conflict is a complex and protracted crisis that requires a multifaceted approach to find a lasting solution. Several solutions have been proposed to end the conflict, including diplomatic negotiations, economic sanctions, and military intervention. Diplomatic negotiations have been the primary focus of efforts to end the Ukrainian conflict. The Minsk Protocol, signed in September 2014, is the primary agreement aimed at ending the conflict. The protocol called for a ceasefire, the withdrawal of heavy weapons from the front lines, the release of prisoners, and constitutional reforms to grant greater autonomy to the separatist-controlled regions. However, the Minsk Protocol has not been fully implemented, and fighting has continued to escalate. The lack of trust between the Ukrainian government and the separatists, as well as the involvement of external actors such as Russia, has made it difficult to reach a lasting peace agreement. Economic sanctions have been another tool used to pressure Russia to end its support for the separatists and to find a solution to the conflict. The European Union and the United States have imposed economic sanctions on Russia, including restrictions on trade, finance, and investment. These sanctions have had a significant impact on Russia's economy, which has led to increased economic pressure on the Russian government to end its support for the separatists. However, some argue that economic sanctions have had unintended consequences, including increased anti-Western sentiment in Russia and the spread of economic hardship to ordinary Russian citizens. Moreover, there are questions about the effectiveness of economic sanctions in changing Russia's behavior in the conflict. Military intervention has been suggested as a possible solution to the conflict, with some calling for NATO or other external actors to provide military assistance to Ukraine. However, military intervention carries significant risks and could lead to an escalation of the conflict. Russia has warned that any military intervention by NATO or other external actors would be met with a strong response. The Ukrainian conflict is a complex and ongoing crisis that has caused significant political and economic instability in the region. The conflict has resulted in the deaths of thousands of people and has displaced millions. Diplomatic negotiations, economic sanctions, and military intervention have all been suggested as possible solutions to end the conflict. Ultimately, a lasting solution to the Ukrainian conflict will require a multifaceted approach that addresses the underlying political, economic, and social issues that have contributed to the conflict. It will also require the cooperation of all key players involved, including the Ukrainian government, Russian-backed separatists, Russia, and the international community. Only through sustained diplomatic efforts and a commitment to finding a peaceful solution can the Ukrainian conflict be resolved.